Chapter 3, Lesson 6, Write Linear Equations, Day 1. You will be able to write an equation of a line. So when we're writing an equation of a line, we can have as little as a slope and a point. Okay? This right here, this equation we see, is called the point-slope form because in it you can see a point and a slope. Let me explain. We're going to identify our slope with the variable m, identify the point with the labels x1, y1, just as we did before when we were finding slope of 2 points. We are then going to write this form, the point-slope form, plug in all the information we're given, and simplify. And what will happen is we will end up with an equation with two variables, a y and an x. The y1 and the x1 are going to be replaced with the numbers from your point, and the m will be replaced with the slope. So let's do some examples together. Write an equation in point-slope form for the line that passes through -2, 3 with a slope of 4. Well, my slope is 4, so I'm going to label that with m. Our point, -2, 3, is x1, y1. From here, I'm going to write the point-slope formula. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now plug in the information you know. We have m and we have x1, y1. So y minus our y1 is 3 equals our slope, our m value is 4. Put your x minus, and your x1 is -2. So all I did is I wrote our formula, which is given to you here, and I plugged in the three numbers we were given. You will still have a y, you will still have an x, and that's okay. From here, I like to do what I call make it pretty. I don't like having a double negative here. It looks a little sloppy. Same thing, it sometimes will happen here. So I want to make it pretty and get rid of that. So y minus 3 looks okay. I'm going to write that down. Equals 4 is fine. But in the middle, I have minus a negative. A double negative is always a positive. So that minus -2 simply becomes +2. And that is our point-slope form. Because we can see our point and our slope. Okay. Now if you notice, the point we see, the signs are opposite. So for example, this says -2, but this is a +2. And this says +3 when this is a -3. So what happens is the signs actually end up switching when you write it in your point-slope form. And that happens because it's subtraction. Letter B. Write the slope-intercept form of the equation from example A. Remember, your slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So all we have to do here, we're almost there. We have to get y by itself. Before we can do that, we've got to get rid of these parentheses, and we can do that by distributing. So let's rewrite what we have in this box. Y minus 3 equals 4 times the quantity x plus 2. So the first step is to distribute that 4. Y minus 3 equals 4 times x is 4x, and 4 times +2 is +8. And again, we want to get y by itself, so we need to get rid of that -3 by adding 3 to both sides. Now, I don't want to add 3 to 4x because they're not like terms. Like terms would have the same variables. However, 3 is a like term with 8, so I'm going to write that +3 under the 8. These cancel and leave me with y equals 4x. I didn't do anything to that, so bring it down. And then positive 8 plus 3 is positive 11. And that is your equation in slope-intercept form. It's called slope-intercept form because 4 is the slope, which if I check back in my question, it is, and 11 is your y-intercept. So if you were to look at this as a graph, the 11 would be where it intersects the y-axis. Let's do another one, letter C. Write an equation in point-slope form for the line that passes through 1, 9 with a slope of 2. Your slope, or m value, is 2, and your point is x1, y1. Now write your point-slope formula. Y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. Plug in the values you know. Y minus y1, which is 9, equals our slope, or m value, is 2, times the quantity x minus our x1 is 1. In this one, I don't have any double negatives hanging out, so there's no need to make it pretty because it already is. So that's our answer. Now letter D again wants us to write it in slope-intercept form. So rewrite your equation. Y minus 9 equals 2 times the quantity x minus 1. And now let's make it pretty. I'm going to distribute the 2 first and get 2x minus 2. Bring down the rest. And I need to get y by itself because y is by itself up here, so I need to get rid of this minus 9. And I'm going to do that by adding 9 to both sides. And I will add 9 to this negative 2 because those are the like terms. So we are left with y equals 2x, and negative 2 plus 9 is positive 7. Letter E. Write an equation in point-slope form for the line that passes through negative 1, 2 with a slope of negative 1/2. Here's our slope. Here's our x1, y1. Our point-slope formula is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Plug in what you know. Y minus our y1 is 2 equals our slope is negative 1/2 times the quantity, oops, meant to do that in red, times the quantity of x minus our x1 value is negative 1. Now this I do have to make it pretty because I have that double negative. So our equation is y minus 2, that's perfectly fine, equals negative 1/2 times the quantity of x. Remember, double negative is a positive, so plus 2. Letter F, we're going to take this and write it into slope-intercept form. So start off by rewriting it. Y minus 2 equals negative 1/2 times the quantity x plus 2. Distribute the 1/2 to start us off. The negative 1/2, excuse me. So y minus 2 equals negative 1/2 x. And then negative 1/2 times 2 is actually negative 2 over 2, or negative 1. Add 2 to both sides to get y by itself. And we get y equals negative 1/2 x plus 1. Part 2, writing a linear equation given 2 points. So this time we aren't given the slope, we first have to find the slope. So we're going to label our points to find the slope, and then we're going to use our point and our founded slope, and then do the same thing we just did. So here we go. Just an extra step in the beginning. So again, we have 2 points, so we're going to label x1, y1, and x2, y2. If you remember, our slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and that's our slope, which we know is the variable m. So plug in your values. M equals y2 is 9 minus y1 is 1 over x2 is negative 2 minus x1 is 8. M equals 9 minus 1 is 8, and negative 2 minus 8 is negative 10. And I'll reduce it. I'll divide by 2 and get our slope as 4 over negative 5, or simply negative 4/5. I can pull that negative sign right out in the front. Now that we have our slope, we have our m and our points. We have m and x1, y1. We can go right to our point slope formula. Y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. Plug in what we know. Y minus our y1 is 1 equals our slope is negative 4/5 times x minus our x1 is 8. I don't have any double negatives, so that's our answer in point slope form. This is all for letter A. Letter B, of course, wants us to write it in slope-intercept form. I'm going to start down here with letter B. So start by writing your equation again. And our first step here is to distribute the negative 4/5. Y minus 1 equals negative 4/5 x. And this, I've got a negative times a negative, so I know this is going to be a positive. And 4 times 8 is 32, so this would be 32/5, which let's figure out. So again, that would be 32/5. 5 goes into 36 times. Bring down a 0, and it goes in 4 times exactly. So plus 6.4. We need to get y by itself, so we're going to add 1 to both sides, and I'm going to add 1 to its common or its like term. And we have y equals negative 4/5 x plus 7.4. Letter C, write an equation in point slope form for the line that passes through 3, 0 and 6, negative 3. So we're going to label x1, y1, and x2, y2. And our first step is finding the slope. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. M equals y2 is negative 3 minus y1, which is 0, over x2, which is 6, minus x1, which is 3. So m equals negative 3 minus 0 is negative 3, and 6 minus 3 is 3. Negative 3 divided by 3 is negative 1. So that's our slope. We have our slope of negative 1, and we have our x1, y1. We're going to go right to our point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Plug in what we know. Y minus, our y1 is 0, equals our slope, which we found to be negative 1, times x minus x1, which is 3. And no double negatives, so this is point slope form. Letter D, writing in y equals mx plus b form. Start with y minus 0 equals, actually, let me move this down so I have more space. Okay. Y minus 0 equals negative 1 times x minus 3. First thing we need to do is distribute that negative 1. So y minus 0 is negative 1x plus 3, because negative 1 times negative 3 is positive 3. And to get y alone, we're going to add 0 to both sides. And we get y equals negative 1x plus 3 plus 0 is 3, so plus 3. And that is slope-intercept form. Letter E, write an equation in point-slope form for the line that passes through negative 1, 2, and 5, negative 10. So x1, y1, x2, y2. Let's start with our slope. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. M equals y2 is negative 10 minus y1, which is 2, over x2, which is 5, minus x1, which is negative 1. So 5 minus negative 1. M equals negative 10 minus 2 is negative 12, over 5 minus negative 1 is positive 6. And negative 12 divided by 6 is negative 2. So we have our slope of negative 2, and we have our x1 and y1 values. So let's use our point slope form now. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Plug in what you know. Y minus y1 is 2 equals our slope, or m value, is negative 2 times x minus our x1 value is negative 1, so minus negative 1. This does not look pretty, so we need to make it pretty. We need to get rid of this double negative here to make it pretty. So y minus 2 equals negative 2 times the quantity of x plus 1. And letter F is to write it in slope-intercept form. And to start us off, we're going to rewrite our equation. Y minus 2 equals negative 2 times x plus 1. Distribute your negative 2. So let me bring down y minus 2 equals. Then we have negative 2x minus 2. Add 2 to both sides. We get y equals negative 2x plus, well, negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Now, we don't always write plus 0. It's not incorrect, but to make it pretty, we're just going to eliminate that 0 and write y equals negative 2x. So again, to make it pretty, we get rid of the plus 0 to make it nice and neat.